A century ago, a godly arena fell upon this world and transformed the rules of the world. Ancient gods were revived, and myth walked the earth. Now, every young person who reaches age 16 can try to awaken a god spirit. If they succeed, they become godly with god powers and the privilege to compete on behalf of their faction in a mythic arena. But the calling is not a safe ritual. Should the incorrect god be summoned, the summoner risks immediate annihilation. And this young man, previously a mere high school student from another world, somehow finds himself pulled into this divine game. Through inquiry, he finally came to know that today was the once-a-decade day of divine awakening. Alas, the Eastern Realm faction had long endured the collapse of their native godline. This vulnerability has resulted in successive defeats at the hands of the surrounding Sakura Dominion in the mythic battlefield. The city lord appeared on the platform just in time, solemnly declaring the commencement of the summoning ritual. The crowd went wild. This could be the moment of 1,000 years when the Eastern Realm returns to power. Looking at the summoning token in his hand, he couldn't help but sigh. This world was horribly cruel. One wrong move and a botched summoning resulted in instant destruction. In the act of presenting herself, all dressed in white flowing robes, Lu Yenran ascended the altar to become the first person on the mystical altar. The whole arena was in quiet. With her ability, everyone expected she would summon an invincible god. Sadly, the Eastern Realm had lost 2 matches today morning in the mythic arena. The crisis was severe, and if Lu Yenran had a strong god in her, it could very well change the balance. She advanced confidently, and even the city lord next to her quietly prayed she'd call forth a high-ranking god to rescue their faction from embarrassment. At the moment her fingers made contact with the summoning crystal, a flare of brilliant energy burst outwards, attracting everyone's attention. The elderly scholar beside the lord mouthed wide in amazement. That's the auspice of a high-ranking deity. 3 colossal divine beings soon materialized in the sky, radiating incredible power. But none of them had ever been documented in the ancient records of the Eastern Realm. But his heart constricted. Those outlines precisely resembled the mythical war gods in his previous life on Earth. The audience was abuzz with rumor, people shouting in anticipation. And Lu Yenran's voice chimed like a silver bell. The god of carnage, whose name resounds through time. Red Cliff's war bled. I, Lu Yenran, modestly invite war god Bai Qi to come down. Bai Qi's divine body started descending from the heavens, slowly floating over to the altar. But he could not remove the bewilderment. Red Cliffs? Was not Bai Qi renowned for the Battle of Chomping? That was a totally different generation. Zhou Hao promptly dragged him away and spoke curtly in his ear. Lu Yenran is the offspring of a sword immortal. With that sort of background, how dare you mock her here of all locations? More voices were added to the taunting. Who does his buffoon think he is? Coming up with rubbish like some Battle of Chomping, which isn't even in the records of history. A pensive sadness fell over his heart. This world, its civilization had indeed suffered a fracture. The people had lost sight of their past, their bloodied heritage, and substituted it with empty myths. Then the city lord made his public announcement. Lu Yenran had gotten a S-rank deity by 40% compatibility, invoking a god of slaughter Bai Qi, the god of slaughter. Lu Yenran looked at him, cold and proud eyes as if she was whispering, "Now do you see how wide the gap between us is?" If she were still young, her real power required time to develop. Everyone waited for her father, the legendary sword immortal who protected the border, to come back and take them all in the next divine war. But rather than retiring, Lu Yenran looked up, at the other 2 remaining divine silhouettes which still lingered in the air. The city lord scowled. What is she doing now, backslashing? She slipped under one of the figures, a figure of immense stature clothed in a black imperial robe. The aura itself announced him a monarch. Murmurs ran through the gathering. Could it be the one known as the Eternal Emperor? The young man who brought peace to the land? A war king of 1,000 battles? Perhaps it's the fabled Taizong. But the accounts of his acts are nothing more than a faint shadow now. He looked at the sacred statue and shook his head immediately. That can't be Lishaman. Emperors used to wear robes of brilliant yellow during the Sudong era. No dynasty in historical records ever attired their monarchs in black. He cautiously went toward the dark figure. When the divine presence swept over him, he could feel a blast of tremendous, heavy pressure. Something in it evoked a memory. A sudden, old voice echoed throughout the arena. This is the first imperial-class god to manifest in a century. But be careful, there have been an infinite number of rulers through all time. If the incorrect one is called, the backlash will